The night they made that stupid dare, I laughed like it was nothing, but my hands were shaking under the table. It was Friday, almost midnight, and I was out with the guys from work for the first time in months. I almost never went anywhere after 7 because my whole life ran on my 6-year-old daughter Emma's bedtime. But my mom had taken her for the weekend, and the silence in my apartment felt so loud that I agreed to one drink. Just one. That was the plan. We were at a sports bar near the office. Loud music, bright screens, and too many people trying to forget their week. I sat at the edge of the booth, nursing the same soda for an hour, while the others went through round after round. They were talking about everything except work, which was rare, and that was when my boss's name came up. "Come on, man," Tyler said, leaning across the table with a grin that meant trouble. "You work late with her all the time. Don't tell me you never thought about it." I knew exactly who he meant. Olivia Carter, my boss, the marketing director. Smart, calm, always in control. She was the kind of woman who could walk into a room and make everyone sit up straighter without even raising her voice. "I thought about keeping my job," I said, trying to laugh it off. That's what I thought about. They all groaned like I had ruined a good joke. "You're single, she's single. We've all seen the way she looks at you in meetings." "That's called eye contact. Normal people do that." But even as I said it, my chest felt tight. Because the truth was, I had noticed her eyes on me, more than once. In late meetings, when the office was quiet and everyone else had gone home, when it was just the two of us and the hum of the lights. Tyler raised his glass. "I dare you, one night, take her out, see what happens." The table went quiet for a second, then everyone started laughing and repeating it like it was the best idea they had ever heard. I should have shut it down right there. I should have said no and walked out. But something about the way they were looking at me made my pride step in before my brain could. "She's my boss," I said, but my voice sounded weaker than I wanted. "So," Marcus said, "you're both adults." They didn't know about Emma's drawings taped to my fridge. They didn't know about the nights I fell asleep on the couch with a storybook open on my chest. They didn't know that every choice I made had her face in it. Still, I heard myself say, "It's not like she'd ever say yes." Tyler smirked. "So you're scared." That word hit harder than I expected. I wasn't scared of her. I was scared of messing up the one stable thing I had built since my divorce, the job that paid for Emma's school shoes and doctor visits, the routine that kept our world from falling apart. But I didn't say any of that. "Fine," I said quietly. "If the chance ever comes up, I'll ask her out." They cheered like I had just agreed to jump off a roof. I forced a smile, but inside, I already regretted it. I thought the whole thing would die there, just drunk talk that nobody would remember on Monday. I was wrong, because the very next evening, I was in the office, alone. Or at least, I thought I was. Emma had left her favorite pink jacket in my car, and I had to drop off some files anyway, so I stopped by the building after dinner. The parking lot was almost empty, the sky dark and quiet in that lonely way weekends can be. When I stepped out of the elevator onto our floor, the lights were dim, only a few desks glowing from computer screens left on. And at the far end of the hallway, outside her office, I saw her. Olivia was sitting on the floor with her back against the wall, her heels off, her head resting in her hands like the weight of the world had finally caught up with her. I had never seen her like that. Not strong, not calm, just human. I should have turned around. I should have given her privacy. But she looked up when she heard my footsteps. Our eyes met, and for a second, neither of us spoke. "Daniel?" she said softly. "What are you doing here?" Her voice didn't sound like the one from meetings. It sounded small, tired. And suddenly that stupid dare felt very far away, replaced by something else, something warmer, something that made my chest ache in a different way. "I could ask you the same thing," I said, walking a little closer. "It's Saturday." She gave a weak smile. Yeah, I noticed. Up close, I could see her mascara was smudged, like she had wiped her eyes more than once. Are you okay? I asked before I could stop myself. She looked at me for a long moment, like she was deciding something important. Then she said, "Can you sit with me for a minute?" And just like that, everything changed.
I sat down beside her, leaving a little space between us, close enough to talk, but not close enough to make it strange. The hallway was quiet, the kind of quiet that makes every small sound feel louder. I could hear the air vent above us and the soft buzz of lights from the offices that had been left on. For a moment, neither of us said anything. I had never been this close to her without a desk between us, without a meeting agenda, without other people watching. "You do not have to stay," she said, still looking straight ahead. "I just did not want to be alone right now." "I can stay," I said. "I was just drawing off some files. I'm not in a rush." That was not fully true. I had planned to get back home and call my mom to check on Emma before she went to sleep. But something about the way Olivia was sitting there made everything else feel less urgent. She pulled her knees closer to her chest and wrapped her arms around them. "Do you ever feel like you are holding everything together with your hands?" she asked. "And if you let go for 1 second, it will all fall apart?" I let out a slow breath. "Yeah," I said, "every day." She turned her head and looked at me then, really looked at me, like she was seeing me for the first time and not just as an employee in a meeting room. "You forget you're a dad sometimes," she said softly. "You never use it as an excuse." "I can't afford to," I said with a small smile. "Life doesn't give discounts for being tired." That made her laugh, but it came out shaky, like it was sitting on top of tears. "What happened?" I asked gently. She stared down at the floor tiles. "The board called tonight. They want to cut half my team before the next quarter. They said if numbers don't improve fast, they'll replace me with someone who will make harder choices." I felt my chest tighten. Half the team meant people I worked with every day, people with kids and rent and car payments. "That's not fair," I said. She gave me a tired look. "Since when has business been fair?" I didn't have an answer for that. "My dad used to say that if you work hard and treat people right, things work out," she went on. "He believed that with his whole heart. He worked at the same factory for 30 years. Then they closed it in 1 week, no warning." "I'm sorry," I said. "He had a heart attack 2 years later," she said quietly. "Stress, the doctors said." The way her voice broke on that word made my stomach twist. "I keep thinking about him," she said, "and now I'm the one sitting in rooms deciding whose lives get turned upside down. I don't even sleep anymore." Without thinking, I said, "You care. That already makes you different." She looked at me again, eyes red but steady. "Do you know why I asked you to sit with me?" I shook my head. "Because you're the only person at work who still looks at me like I'm a human, not just as the boss." My heart started beating faster, and I hated that my friend's stupid dare flashed in my mind right then. I pushed it away. This was not a game. She was hurting. "I don't see you as just the boss," I said. "You stay late to help people fix their mistakes. You remember everyone's birthdays. You bring your own coffee, but still ask if anyone else wants some." She smiled, a real one this time, small but warm. "You notice a lot." "I have to," I said. "That's part of being a dad, too. You learn to pay attention." The word dad seemed to settle something between us. It made the moment softer, safer. She leaned her head back against the wall and closed her eyes. "I'm so tired, Daniel." I wanted to reach out, to put a hand on her shoulder, to give some kind of comfort, but I kept my hands to myself. She was my boss. I was an employee. Lines mattered. Still, sitting there beside her, I felt a pull I couldn't ignore. Not just attraction, but something deeper. A quiet understanding. Two people trying to hold their worlds together. "My daughter thinks I can fix anything," I said after a while. broken toys, bad dreams, monsters under the bed. I wish I believed that about myself. Olivia opened her eyes and looked at me with a softness that made my throat tight. I think you fix more than you know. The hallway felt smaller somehow, warmer. She shifted slightly, her shoulder brushing mine for just a second. It was an accident, I told myself, but neither of us moved away right away. "Thank you for staying," she said in a low voice. "Of course," I replied. Our eyes met again, and this time the air between us felt different, heavy, full of something unspoken. I knew I should stand up. I knew I should say goodnight and leave before this turned into something complicated. But I stayed. And when she looked at my mouth instead of my eyes, I felt the moment tipping into dangerous territory. I felt it before it happened. That quiet shift in the air when a moment stops being friendly and starts becoming something else. Her eyes dropped to my mouth, then slowly came back to my eyes like she was trying to decide something she had been holding back for a long time. I stood up too fast. "I should go," I said, my voice tight. "It is late." She blinked like I had woken her from a dream. "Right, of course. I am sorry. I did not mean to make things strange." "You did not," I said quickly. "It is just, I have to get home." That part was true, but it was not the whole truth. The real reason was the storm inside my chest, the pull toward her and the voice in my head shouting about consequences. I held out my hand to help her up. She hesitated for half a second, then placed her hand in mine. Her fingers were warm and soft, and when I helped her stand, we ended up closer than before. Too close. "Thank you for sitting with me," she said. "I did not realize how much I needed that." "You do not have to carry everything alone," I said. "You tell us to work as a team all the time. That includes you, too." She smiled at that, a tired but real smile that made her look younger and softer than I had ever seen her. We walked slowly down the hallway together. Our footsteps echoed in the empty office, and the space between us felt full of things neither of us knew how to say. At the elevator, she pressed the button and folded her arms, like she was bracing herself. "Daniel," she said quietly, not looking at me, "can I ask you something personal?" "Okay," I said, careful. "Why are you still single?" I let out a short breath that almost turned into a laugh. "Straight to the hard questions, huh?" She gave a small shrug. "I spend all day making decisions about budgets and campaigns. At night, my brain asks questions like this instead." I leaned back against the wall. "My marriage ended 3 years ago. It was not dramatic, just two people growing in different directions. But after that, everything became about Emma. School, bills, being there. Dating felt selfish." "It is not selfish to want someone," she said softly. "It feels risky," I replied. "I cannot bring the wrong person into her life. She gets attached. So do I." Olivia nodded slowly, like she understood more than I expected. "I think that is why I never dated much either. Work was easier, safer. Deadlines don't leave you. Spreadsheets don't break your heart." The elevator doors opened with a soft ding, but neither of us moved right away. "I'm glad you came in tonight," she said. "If you hadn't, I would still be sitting on that floor, overthinking everything." "I'm glad I did too," I admitted. The words hung between us, heavier than they should have been. We stepped into the elevator together. It was a small space, and when the doors closed, the quiet felt even deeper than before. I could smell her perfume, light and clean, and it made my head feel warm. She looked up at me. "I hope this doesn't change things at work." "It doesn't have to," I said, though I wasn't sure if that was true. The elevator stopped at the lobby. The doors slid open, letting in the cool night air from the entrance. We walked out to the parking lot together. Only a few cars were left under the tall lights. Mine was parked near the front. Hers was a few spaces away. This was the part where we should say goodnight and go our separate ways.
She turned to me, keys in her hand. "Daniel? Yeah?" Her eyes searched my face like she was looking for permission for something she was not sure she should ask. "If things were different," she said slowly, "if we did not work together, would you ever think about going out with me?" My heart hit my ribs so hard it almost hurt. Images flashed through my mind, my friends at the bar laughing, Emma's drawings on the fridge, the quiet hallway, her sitting on the floor alone. "Yes," I said, before fear could stop me. "I would." She let out a breath like she had been holding it all night. "Okay, that's enough for now." She gave me a soft smile, then turned and walked to her car, leaving me standing there under the parking lot lights with my thoughts spinning. I drove home in silence, hands tight on the steering wheel. I kept hearing her question in my head. If things were different. But things were not different, and on Monday morning, she would still be my boss.
Monday morning felt like walking into a test I had not studied for. I barely slept the night before. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her standing under the parking lot lights, asking that question, if things were different. But things were not different. She was still my boss. I was still a single dad who could not afford to lose his job. I dropped Emma off at school, kissed the top of her head, and told her I would pick her up right on time. She waved and ran inside, her backpack bouncing, trusting me the way only a child can. That trust sat heavy on my chest all the way to work. When I walked into the office, everything looked normal. People were at their desks, phones were ringing, coffee was brewing. But I felt like everyone could see the storm in my head. At 10, I got a calendar invite. Olivia Carter, one-on-one. My stomach dropped. I walked to her office a few minutes later and knocked lightly. "Come in," she called. She was sitting behind her desk, back in her usual chair, hair neat, blazer on, calm, professional, like Saturday night had never happened. "Close the door, please," she said. I did. For a moment, we just looked at each other. There was something softer in her eyes, but also something firm, like she had made a decision. "I want to talk about the team cuts," she said first, sliding a folder toward me. "I need your help restructuring the next campaign so we can protect as many jobs as possible." Relief and disappointment mixed in my chest. Part of me was glad we were talking about work. Part of me had hoped for something else. "I will do whatever I can," I said. "I know. That is one of the reasons I trust you." Then she took a slow breath. "And there is something else." Here it was. "About Saturday," she said, her voice gentler now. "I meant what I asked, but I've been thinking, and I do not want to put you in a position where your job or your reputation could get hurt, not because of me." I swallowed. "It's not just that," I admitted. I care about what happens to you, too. If people talk, they won't blame me. They'll blame you." A small, sad smile touched her lips. "That is true." The room felt quiet, but not awkward, honest. "So here's what I propose," she said. "We keep things professional, clear boundaries, no secrets, no blurred lines." My chest felt tight, but I nodded. "Okay." She held my gaze. "But if someday one of us is not working here anymore and life looks a little different, I would like the chance to finish that conversation in the parking lot." My heart skipped. "I would like that too," I said softly. For a second, it felt like the air warmed between us again, not rushed, not reckless, just a quiet promise for a future that might or might not come. She stood, and I stood too. "Thank you for being kind that night. Not everyone would have just sat and listened." "Thank you for trusting me," I replied. We shook hands, like coworkers, but her fingers squeezed mine just a little longer than necessary. I walked out of her office feeling lighter and heavier at the same time. The days that followed were busy. We worked late, side by side with the team, fighting to save every position we could. There were meetings, numbers, stress, but there was also a new understanding between us, respect, care, distance.
Some evenings I would catch her looking at me through the glass wall of her office, not in a way that crossed lines, just a quiet reminder that something real had passed between us. At home, Emma would tell me about her day, and I would listen, helping with homework, making dinner, being the dad she believed I was. And sometimes, after she fell asleep, I would stand by the window with a cup of coffee and think about the future, about timing, about second chances, about a woman who once sat on an office floor and asked me to stay, and the way her words stopped me from making a mistake for the wrong reason. I didn't know what would happen next, but for the first time in a long while, I believed that when the time was right, love would still be waiting.